Okay, thank you very much for coming. So this is joint work with my awesome collaborators, Carla and Griggio, Zefan, Sramek, and Aslan, Askarov. This is my first time presenting about usability because I'm breaking into the area, so bear with me. First, I wanted to give you some context. I thought to get you all on the same page, I wanted to talk a little bit what we thought about when we thought about untraceability, right? So we were coming from a certain point of view, thinking about actually anonymous communication, so untraceability on the network layer, right? So when Alice talks to Bob, you might have some malicious Mallory looking in, seeing that this is happening. She might be a strong attacker. I draw some muscle on her. And so she can basically listen to transport layer metadata, right? So who talks to who, when conversations happen, and how often. And this might be for traffic analysis. So that was what we were thinking about when we thought about untraceability. But that might not be what everyone is thinking about when you think about untraceability, right? So in the scope of untraceable communication and untraceable communication protocols, right, it's a known solution space where there are trade-offs between strong privacy, low bandwidth overhead, and low latency. So basically, these are three things that we want all of them, right? But there is a known result from Oakland in 18 that we actually need to only choose two. So we need to make trade-offs in this space. And lots of people have made different trade-offs. So for example, the seminal work by Chaum from 81 is the DC net one with strong privacy. Tor is somewhere in the more performance region where you have lower privacy, but you have more performance. Lots of work going on there. And us ourselves, I put this work that you might not know, Denim from URSMP 2024. That's actually Aslan and myself were authors on that paper. And we were placing ourselves somewhere in this trilemma, right? Because we had to do it. And we wondered, is this a good place? Is this where we should be? Are we actually looking in the right part of these trade-offs? So theoretically, we know what this looks like, right? But what if users only like one part of the trilemma? So we wanted to understand users better. Okay, so hopefully that puts some context that you actually would not get in the paper. So you got something different from going to this talk. So we wanted to know, how do we know if a protocol is good, right? And we know that the privacy guarantees in untraceable communication, it scales with the anonymity set, so with the amount of users that you have in your protocol. So many users is good for privacy. So we really wanted to find out, how do we get more users? And if you look at user statistics of deployed anonymous communication systems, very few of them are actually deployed in the wild, unfortunately. So we have Tor that probably everyone here knows about. I looked at the statistics, 3 to 5 million users per day. Then I looked at Loki or LokiNet. A factor 10 difference here, approximately 200,000 users per day is what they report. And then we have NIM. We had some NIM people here on Monday. So they don't have any statistics on their website, but if you talk to the NIM people, they might give you a number. I don't want to share it now that it's being recorded, but they have a number. So not as many users maybe as we wanted. So is untraceability just protocols for untraceable communications, or do users even think that they need this kind of protection, right? What do they think about when we say untraceability? To understand this, we thought, actually, we need a user study. And this is when we realized that we are protocol designers. We need to team up with some usability researchers to help us and actually investigate this. So we did a user study. And we're asking user perceptions and attitudes towards untraceability and the wide concept of untraceability, not untraceable communication protocols, because we're not sure they would understand what that was. So we wanted to avoid the bias. We didn't want to talk about specifically networks. So we're hoping that we're catching some wider threat model of untraceability with untraceable communication maybe being a subset of that threat model in the user's mental model. And we also didn't want to bias them towards a positive or negative scenario. So we wanted to include different perspectives. So we used a methodology called vignettes. Basically, we are telling stories about fictional characters so that they don't feel so, we're not pointing at them and saying, what would you do in the scenario? We say, we have some story in vignette 1 with Alice and Bob, and it's a whistleblower scenario, and it's designed so that we hopefully we can show the users that there's some good use of this technology. In vignette 2, we have basically the opposites. We try to have a negative view where there are some criminals obstructing justice somehow. We show these vignettes. I marked them here as 1 and 2, but in the actual survey, they are in random order. So you might get one of them first. And then in part 3, we actually tell the respondents that this is the same technology that would facilitate both of these use cases to try to force them to make trade-offs of what is more important to you. And this is free text answers. And we asked them, when we have the positive view, the whistleblower scenario, we asked them, could you see any negative consequences of this? And then we flip it when we have the criminals case. We asked them if they could see any positive use cases. And the results are, well, first of all, we had 189 respondents recruited through Prolific. So it's an online survey, and this was collected actually in 24. And we view this as qualitative data. And we're using a technique called reflexive thematic analysis, where we also acknowledge that we have biases when we try to interpret the data. And especially since we are a diverse group of researchers, with some of us coming from security and privacy, and others being from usability without a security privacy background. And if you can remember one thing from this talk, I wanted to be this, that, well, most people, the respondents, don't seem to think about network attackers. It's a bit sad, right? But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't want untraceable communication protocols. What I think it actually means is that we are lacking awareness that maybe you would want this thing, but you just don't know it yet. So I think there's lots of work for us still to do. How much time do I have? Okay, we'll try to. If I don't manage the full slide, come ask me about this one at the poster. So really, I'm still wondering about this. Do people want untraceable communication? And I learned from, so most people don't perceive it as a threat in our sample. But I think this is connected to seminal work in behavioral economy by Tversky and Kahneman, where they actually say that you don't become risk averse until you perceive a risk that has some consequence that is meaningful enough to you. So I think this is the space we're in, users not perceiving risk yet. So I think raising awareness is hopefully the solution to that. And we also see misconceptions still exist. We have a group that we call optimists, and they are kind of wanting the best of two worlds. They want to help a little bit conditionally, only the good people, but not the bad people. So that I would rather that they actually pick a camp and say what they want, rather than it's kind of reminiscent of the chat control debate where everyone just wants everything all the time for the good people. So we need to communicate that some things are just not possible, I think, better. And we believe also there's a case for privacy altruism, that maybe you could be in a system where you're helping out people like Alice, and maybe you could opt into the system just because you want to help others, even though you might not want metadata privacy. I will also have a ramp session. I'm trying to pitch this later tonight. Takeaways, I have a little QR code for the paper, but the common themes of features requested from the users is they want encryption, which is great that they want, right? Because it's a necessary condition, it's just not sufficient. They believe they need at least anonymity from sender and receiver in these kind of systems for untraceability. So maybe their threat model is a bit wider than what we were thinking of. And they also look at things like they want message deletion. A lot of them think about what's going on in the actual devices. What if it's seized? So maybe they want disappearing messages. Uncommon, very few. I have the numbers, I think, on my poster. Actually perceive network layer attackers. I think it's about 3% of the users or something like this that talk about the network. Someone actually mentions Tor and someone mentions VPN, but it's uncommon. And we see three distinct personas, kind of privacy personas, if you will. So privacy fundamentalists that believe that privacy is a human right, so it's more important. And the other side is safety fundamentalists that more interested in accountability. And then we have these optimists. That is the sort of, from a technological point of view, the problematic part, that they want both. And they want it at the same time. They don't seem to realize that there's a contradiction. So that's why we see misconceptions or conflicting ones. Another misconception is actually they think that for untraceable communication to work, well, because we say untraceability might be the actual issue, they also worry about stalking or bullying, where they might not know who they are messaging. And then there's conditional privacy, which I said similar to the EU chat control debate, where you want privacy only for the good people. And design implications, again, we need to be raising awareness to explain that, and we don't know, that our technology even exists and what kind of cases it could protect against, and also what we cannot be protecting against, right? And I think there is something interesting could happen with privacy altruism. So come and ask me at the poster more what I mean with privacy altruism. And thank you very much for listening.